There's an important principle that says al-hukm yaduru ma'illatihi wujudan wa adama, that the ruling for something comes only into existence if its cause exists. So for example, the cause for Salatul Maghrib to be an obligation is the setting of the sun. So that ruling only comes into existence when the sun sets. So the ruling is tied to its cause. That's for Salah. If we look at the starting and the end of Ramadan, what is this cause or this illah? The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال ولا تفطروا حتى تروا فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not fast until you see the crescent, and do not break the fast, meaning the month of Ramadan, until you see the crescent. And if the sky is overcast, then count 30 days. So if we can't see the crescent, then we're to count the month for 30 days. So the illah here that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has established for the beginning and the end of Ramadan, the beginning and the end of Ramadan is the seeing of the crescent. And so we have a classical difference of opinion between the scholars. Is this seeing of the crescent something that is local, or is it something that is global? But I believe in our day and time we can put this classical difference of opinion to rest, because today local is global. Back then, if someone saw the crescent, it would take probably a day or two for that news to reach somewhere else. Today, if someone sees the moon, the news travels instantaneously. Within seconds, it can go around the world. So local is global today, so we can put that controversy or that difference of opinion to rest. However, if there is, so in other words, if the moon is sighted anywhere and the news reaches us, then it becomes an obligation for us to begin or end the month of Ramadan. That's one level of analyzing this fiqh scenario. The second level is where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "As-sawmu yawma tasumun wal-fitru yawma tuftirun." The Prophet ﷺ said that fasting, meaning the beginning month of Ramadan, that fasting is when you all fast. And the end of the month of Ramadan is when all of you end the month of Ramadan. So the maqasid here, the objectives here for Ramadan and Eid is that it should be a community event. So if we're in a place where everyone is actually following a local sighting, even though if you may believe that local is now global, you should go with the local sighting for the sake of unity. And vice versa. If you believe local sighting is the most accurate opinion and you're in a community or area where global is being practiced, you go with the community. So we have one Eid, begin Ramadan together. That is one of the objectives of the Sharia. The easy thing to do is just go by what your local masjid is doing, local or global sighting. The next opinion, what about calculations, astronomical calculations? Is that permissible? Can we calculate in advance when the crescent will be born and declare days before when Eid will be or when Ramadan would be? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال ولا تفطروا حتى تروا. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not start the fast until you see the crescent, and do not end the month of Ramadan until you see the crescent. And this is a prohibition because he said, do not. وَالنَّهِي يَقْتَضِي التَّحْرِيمِ. In usul al-fiqh, prohibition means that it's haram. So in other words, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is saying that if you don't see the crescent, it's haram to begin the month of Ramadan. If you don't see the crescent, it's haram to end the month of Ramadan. Furthermore, we find that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has other statements which emphasize the actual visual seeing of the moon to start or end the month of Ramadan. Number two, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they never practiced astronomical calculations, even though that was available to them. There is only one reported tabi'i later on who allowed calculations, but that tabi'i is the only single tabi'i that has that report, and therefore it contradicts all of the companions, and it contradicts the ahadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, that if you differ in anything, then refer it back to Allah and His Messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam, meaning the Quran and the hadith. So we can't take that tabi'i's report as evidence. Even we know in usul al-fiqh that the statement of a tabi'i is not considered evidence as well. Someone can say, but wait a minute, how come when it comes to the salah, we can calculate the times of the prayer, and since we're allowed to calculate the times of the prayer when dhuhr is, when maghrib is, when isha is, right? No one goes out to see the sun setting. We all calculate the time and we just practice that. If we can calculate for the prayers, the salawat, why can't we calculate for the beginning and the end of the month of Ramadan? We go back to the principle I started with, al-hukm yaduru ma illatihi wujudan wa adama. A ruling is tied to its cause. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, waqtu salat al-maghribi idha ghabat al-shams. The time for the maghrib prayer is when the sun sets. So the cause for the maghrib prayer to be an obligation is the actual movement or the actual setting of the sun. In other words, if the sun doesn't set, the maghrib prayer is not in yet. It's not an obligation. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't say the time for the maghrib prayer is when you see the sun setting. He said when the sun sets, it's time for maghrib. So since that is the illah, that is the cause, that whenever the sun sets, it becomes the time for maghrib, we can calculate that. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not say to fast or break the fast when the crescent is born. But the Prophet ﷺ made the illah, the cause, to be that if you see it, then break the fast. If you see it, then start the fasting. So the illah, the cause here, is linked to the actual visual seeing and has nothing to do with the actual birth of the moon or not. And this is why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ, that the moon could be there. It could be born. There could be a new moon, but because it's cloudy and we can't see it, because the illah, the cause, is actually seeing the moon, if that's hindered, even though the moon is there, we don't take it into regard. We count 30 days and then we continue fasting until the month is over. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.